Good morning. My name is Rico Short. I'm a postgraduate student at Nova Southeastern University in the Department of Endodontics. It gives me great pleasure to be able to speak to you this morning about a very interesting subject that is pertinent to all you general dentists. The subject that we're going to talk about today is coronal leakage. The quality of the restoration is more important for the long-term success of endodontic treatment than the quality of the root canal filling itself. We're going to talk to you about a couple of facts on leakage based on research. Root-filled teeth without coronal restorations had bacterial products at the apex after only 3 weeks. A study according to Madison said that after 3 days of exposure to artificial saliva, leakage in canal spaces were apparent. A good coronal seal is important to minimize microorganisms, their products, or other irritants from saliva that can reach the periapical tissues by means of lateral canals and the apical foramen. So therefore, this brings me to 3 important key topics I want to discuss with you this morning. The first topic is, why does leakage occur? Second topic, we're going to talk about the materials used to prevent leakage. And the third topic, finally, the influence of coronal leakage. The first topic is, why does leakage occur? Breakdown of the restorative material is one of the most important ways that leakage can occur. Fracture of the restorative material, and also loss of the restorative material. I just want to pause for 1 second and talk about these major 3 things. And also, then later on, I'll talk about the fourth, which is loss of restorative material and the delays in placement of permanent restorations. We might as well talk about one more, and that's the fracture of tooth structure. These are very important key aspects in terms of why leakage occurs. It's very important for you to have a very communicable relationship with the endodontist, in our case, as far as getting patients aware of when they need to get a temporary material out of the tooth and get a more permanent restoration. Because various temporary materials, they do leak, in which I will discuss future in the presentation. Last but not least, recurrent decay. I'm going to briefly talk about the materials used to prevent leakage. I'm going to first talk about the temporary materials, and then we're going to talk about the permanent materials. The first material I like to use personally as an endodontist after I do root canal treatment is Cavit. And I use that as my first choice. Okay? People ask, why do I use Cavit? Cavit, based on research, has a very, very tight seal. It's due to a high water absorption rate, and the actual material kind of swells, so to speak, and that gives its attribute to prevent leakage. IRM, which most general dentists I know are familiar with. IRM is another material that you can also use, and the way I decide to use IRM versus Cavit, if I have a larger access in my endodontic preparation than usual, anything other than this like a class 1 access, I tend to use IRM because it has a higher compressive strength, even though it don't seal quite as well as the Cavit. Glass ionomer. Some people use glass ionomer as a temporary, and some people use it as a permanent material. I like to use it as a temporary material most of the time. And the main one that I like to use is Fuji 9. And also with glass ionomer, some glass ionomers have a tendency to leak fluoride, which also can help you have a better barrier, not only with coronal leakage, but also with bacterial leakage if you have it in the area. Also, TERM, which stands for Temporary Endodontic Restorative Material. Have anyone in your audience heard of TERM, the material TERM? Okay, we do have some people who are familiar with that product. The only thing about that product is very technique sensitive. You have to use it and make sure your area is very well isolated in order for it to work properly for you. The permanent materials are the most common materials, which are amalgam and composite. As far as crown leakage, some research shows that there is a difference in the type of crowns that you use is related to coronal leakage. All porcelain crowns tend to leak more than porcelain fused to metal, which tend to leak more than all metal or gold crowns. As far as the influence of coronal leakage goes, the amount of leakage is very influential in the amount of leakage that you have and the availability of a tooth being subjected to success or failure. The presence or absence of restorations, sometimes you might have a temporary material that's halfway there, it may be a piece of it there, and that has it, or it could be all there. And all of those factors have an influence on how much leakage that you have. The time of bacterial challenge, which is basically the amount of time that the tooth is exposed to the bacteria, has a very, very high influence on the success rate of the case. The quality of the root canal filling itself, this is actually a kind of controversial issue. I was reading in the O magazine of 2000. There was research done by a guy named Tronstedt and his group. He actually attributed coronal leakage, well, he actually attributed the root canal filling itself was more important than the actual coronal restoration. So this issue is still in debate. And the number and violence of the leaking microorganisms. Everyone knows that you have different microorganisms available in the oral cavity, and you have different amounts in different places, and different kinds also. So it just depends on which ones can influence the canal space and can cause a reaction due to itself or the byproducts. However, with all of this said, still, the success rate of endodontic treatment without periapical pathology exceeds 95% of cases, despite the fact that most coronal restorations leak. So in conclusion, if you have a high quality restoration plus a high quality root canal filling, you will get less coronal leakage. This time I want to thank you for your attendance and your participation in my presentation, and I would like to open the floor for any questions or comments at this time.
Content to leave it at this certain line. I don't want it to stay there. I want it to become everything, and I do not want it to ever stop. I mean, movies should be everything. And it is to me, and it always will be.
And you know what? I'm only 47. My life is not over.
Far out. I've made my decision.
For homework before you sign up with any debt counseling service. The Federal Trade